Well, we certainly had an interesting week last week, didn't we, in Canadian politics? And this week, we're going to kind of continue on with some of the suggestions from viewers, because last week we had a great episode that was brought up about the comparison between the Russia and China connection and the fact that we send billions to Ukraine. So I thought, let's read some more comments and emails and see if there's anything else interesting in there. Well, guess what? A political science professor who is asked not to be named because they're supposed to be politically agnostic sent me a very lengthy description, but a very cool one, on how Mark Carney prepares his speeches and why everything, including the word salad, is intentional in that speech. So we are going to discuss that today. We're going to pull it all apart, and hilariously, he has given me a pre-prepared Mark Carney speech to give you guys at the end. We'll see if I can get through it. So it's a good one, but I want you to take a look at this also that ended up in my inbox. And just a word of warning, put your coffee or your tea down. I don't even have mine yet. Put it down. You might spit it all over the screen. Watch this.
Have built a remarkable partnership in the economy, in security, and in rich cultural exchange. But Canada doesn't live because of the United States.
Track me down for what?
Canada thrives because we are Canadian.
Excuse me. I was gonna go and have a drink later.
Oh, man. I mean, the cottonmouth was real. You could see it. It was right there. Cottonmouth for Mark Carney. I wonder if it was because he was lying and super nervous. But that is interesting, that speech he gave last week, because liberal word salad is not new to anybody, is it? I mean, where have we seen this before?
Well, a proof is a proof. What kind of a proof? It's a proof. A proof is a proof. And when you have a good proof, it's because it's proof.
All right. We are off to a humorous start here. I get it, but it is a serious episode, and we are going to get started on it right now. Let's tap into the truth.
Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Welcome back to your Monday morning edition of Bakes on Things, Tap the Maple. And I know a lot of liberals would want you to believe that Mark Carney's speech was perfect, that it was a magical speech that has labeled him now the new leader of the free world. But here's the problem. There were a couple of things that happened after his speech that would indicate he's nothing in the free world. The first of which was, of course, that Donald Trump negotiated with Europe a deal, or a framework for a deal, around Greenland, while Mark Carney was in the air on the way home. I'm pretty sure if you're negotiating a deal like that, the leader of the free world, should he be that, would be there. But he wasn't. So, not the leader of the free world. But beyond that, I want you to take a look at this video, which is world bankers at the WEF. None of us have been shown this, by the way, by our mainstream media, disagreeing with Mark Carney's speech. Take a look.
And this is where I want to go with this, if I could, because I think we're all trying to figure out what we just saw. I think there was a lot of whiplash throughout the week. And we heard a couple of different perspectives, one of which came from the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, who said, "Every day we're reminded that we live in an era of great power rivalry, that the rules-based order is fading, that the strong can do what they can and the weak must suffer what they must. Let me be direct," he said, "we are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition." And I think we all want to understand whether you agree with that and what it means.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and good morning to all of you. I'm not exactly on the same page as Mark, and having 25 years of business background, I think that we policymakers are at a point where we have to look at Plan B, or Plans B, but even with those Plans B, which have also been articulated by Ursula von der Leyen, I'm not sure that we should be talking about rupture. I think we should be talking about alternatives. We should be identifying much more so than we have probably in the past, the weaknesses, the sore points, the dependencies, the autonomy. But obviously, I take the view that from an economic and from a business point of view, we depend on each other. We have these very strong links and bind. Suppliers sometimes are in a position of strength. Demanders, if I look at supply and demands, have also a position of strength. And I think that all directions have to be explored. And my takeaway personally as a central bank president is that we have accountability to the truth. You know, my economist often says, try to distinguish the signal from the noise. Well, I think we've had a lot of noise this week, and it's been a tremendously interesting and fascinating week from all perspectives. But our duty as central bankers, our duty as economists, is to distinguish the signals from the noise. And I would make one point, Andrew, if I may. We hear lots of numbers floating around. And I would just like to call your attention to the fact that numbers have to be defined, identified. When you hear, huge growth numbers, for instance, most of those numbers are nominal growth numbers. The real numbers are the real growth numbers. So when you hear 5% here, or 6%, or 7%, or 3%, in most instances, those are nominal numbers. You then have to take into account inflation and deflate those nominal numbers by the inflation. Then you get to the real numbers. This is one of the few things, I know it sounds a bit esoteric to the non-economist, but it's important to actually speak the truth. And that's one of my takeaway from here. We have to distinguish the signals from the noise. We have to be honest about the numbers that we use, and we rely on inflation expectations. We rely on the forecasts that are produced by our teams. We have to be honest when we publish, identify, communicate, and leverage on those numbers. There are lots of other issues that I could come to, but this is my takeaway at this point in time.
All right, welcome back. There you go. That's the second thing. That's the second thing that disproves anything that Mark Carney was talking about, on top of the fact that he also lied about the historians, and he's just not the leader of the free world. So let's talk about something else. Let's talk about something that Canadians are starting to really feel instinctively from all of this, even if they can't quite put their finger on it. Prime Minister Mark Carney speaks a lot. He loves his own voice. He sounds confident. He sounds measured. He sounds authoritative. And yet, when the speech is over, a strange thing seems to happen. You don't actually know what was decided. You don't actually know what will change. You don't know what comes next. In fact, oftentimes, you just don't know what he really said. And that isn't accidental. The fact is, that's strategy. And our political scientist viewer, who, again, I promised would not name because he's supposed to be politically agnostic, submitted this. So I want to go and walk you through how that strategy works. What I got from him. How you can speak for 10 minutes, sound profound, and still commit to absolutely nothing. It's an actual strategy. It is something that his war room probably helped him prepare, and we're going to talk about it today. But don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, join the conversation down below. As always, this channel, Bakes on Things, is meant to be the start of the conversation with the video, but a community as well. And the first rule of this whole communication style is very simple. Precision is dangerous to a politician. Precision creates accountability. You'll have to live up to it. Precision creates timelines. Precision creates expectations. You don't have to ask me. Political scientist professors have always done this. So instead of being precise, you sound careful, carefully worded. You use words that imply depth without ever anchoring it to any kind of result. Words like values, that Mark Carney loves to use, resilience, sustainability, engagement, partnership, and leadership. Now, admittedly, and this is a context and a sort of footnote from this professor as well, Mark Carney's not the only one that does this. He just does it a lot. These words are emotionally positive, but they're structurally empty unless they're attached to action. And, well, in Mark Carney's speeches, typically they are not attached to action whatsoever. And this is why he's getting caught doing this, because he doesn't put any action behind it. See, what was listed here is that most politicians do use some action words. But the second thing is the logic, right? Mark Carney's style speech often follows this exact pattern, where he describes a vague global challenge, keeps it nice and vague, asserts that Canada is uniquely positioned to respond, okay? He defines Canada's response as a set of values that we all have, including you and me. Use those same values to justify the original assertion. What you end up with is you end up where you started, but now it feels unresolved, or it feels resolved in the case of what it sounds like. Nothing actually moved, though. It is unresolved. Nothing changed. But the loop is complete, and that's what he wanted you to do. End up back where you started and feel resolved. That's not a mistake. That's the design of the speech. That is literally how they planned it out. Now, another key technique is called concept stacking. Now, I didn't know about this until I read through what was sent to me, but instead of one idea clearly explained, you stack multiple abstract ideas together so that they blur into one another. For example, we'll give you an example of this. Independent yet interdependent, something like that, right? Autonomous yet aligned. Decisive yet deliberative. When you say sentences like that, you begin to layer concepts on each other. Each phrase cancels itself out, but in a way that sounds balanced and thoughtful and authoritative. Now, this allows the speaker to claim every position at once while being pinned to none of them. See, there's no way to hold anyone accountable for those three statements I just read, but that's the idea. Sound authoritative, have concept on top of concept, but not enough to make anyone hold you accountable for it. Now, this style plays incredibly well in elite environments. It's why he got a standing ovation. So at Davos, places like global forums, panel discussions, it's great to use these strategies because it often gets them wowed by the big words you're using and the concepts they think they understand but don't, because those spaces reward tone over the actual outcome. Nobody asks, did this work? They ask, did this sound responsible? It's why those world bankers were questioning everything, because there wasn't anything responsible about it. It was noise, as she called it. And this is the thing. Even it's saying nothing. The whole script of his speech is really kind of saying nothing. And she kind of pointed that out, that it was mostly noise and we need precision right now in this world. So for regular Canadians, though, this style creates a gap. People are dealing with things like higher costs. Well, that wasn't discussed in any of those speeches. Lower productivity, stagnant wages, housing that never gets cheaper. So when a speech offers no numbers, no timelines, and no trade-offs, it actually starts to feel disconnected. It's why we're all kind of raising an eyebrow right now. Even if it sounds impressive, which it did initially, that disconnect starts to grow. Wait a minute, he didn't talk about this or this or this. And once people start to see that pattern, they can't unsee it. And as this professor says, we're starting to not be able to unsee the pattern in the last two speeches from Mark Carney because they were so deeply into these styles of speak. So after listening to enough of these speeches like we have lately, we decided to try something. Okay? And listen, this is written for me. I don't know what it even says. I've tried to read it a couple of times, but there's no policies, no commitments. We're just the method. We're going to use the method to get what a Mark Carney speech sounds like, okay? And this is going to sound like word salad because that's the intention of it, okay? So let me be Mark Carney. I'm going to take the Mark Carney role for you right now, and you're going to see these strategies actually at work, and you'll be pretty dumbfounded, okay? So here we go. My fellow Canadians and Canadians in principle, today we stand not at a crossroads, but at a roundabout, where every direction is forward and every turn represents progress, provided we agree on the definition of progress at a later date. Carney nod, wink. Canada's sovereignty is not something we hold, but something we express through dialogue, through partnership, and through the responsible flexibility to remain open to evolving interpretations of responsibility. In a world that demands certainty, Canada will lead by embracing constructive uncertainty, guided not by outcomes, but by intentions that mature collaboratively over time. Carney nods, smile, wink. Our approach is independent, yet interdependent, autonomous, yet aligned, decisive, while we remaining open to further consultation pending reflection. Canada does not choose between national interest and global engagement. We redefine national interest as global engagement, filtered through values, framed multilaterally, and implemented incrementally. Our economy will grow, not merely in size, but in meaning. Our partnerships will deepen, not always in direction, but in intention, and our future will be prosperous, not necessarily materially, but narratively. And let me be clear. Clarity itself can be limiting. Timelines can be restrictive. Accountability can be premature. Instead, Canada will proceed with flexibility, sustainability, inclusivity, and a rules-based order whose rules must remain adaptable to the evolving rules that they are based in the order, understanding of the rules themselves. This is not a moment. This is a process. This is not a destination. This is an ongoing commitment to the conversation about potentially arriving somewhere meaningful in the future. This is how Canada leads. Wink, nod. This is how Canada listens. This is how Canada explains leadership after the fact. And this is who we are, even as we continue to define what that means together. Standing O. Standing O. Okay, reading that with a straight face was actually really, really hard. But I want you to ask yourself, did that sound familiar? Did it say anything? Or did it just sound like it said something? That's how he operates. That's how the Liberals write the speeches for him. Because once you understand the strategy around these speeches, you realize something very, very important. This is not prime ministerial communication. It's expectation management. It makes sure you can't truly hold him accountable for anything he said. And Canada can't afford to be managed like this anymore. We can't afford to be managed with words forever. That's the reality. Well, I think we got to the truth of that one this morning. Don't forget to share it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the conversation down below. What'd you think of my speech? Would you give me a standing ovation? I mean, it wasn't mine. It was written for me, but so are Mark's. And, well, it was a whole bunch of word salad. Listen to it back. Rewind it and listen to it back. I want you to find one concept you can hold me accountable to in that speech. And then if you do, put it in the comments below. Now you know the strategy. That's why we're here. Thanks for watching Tap the Maple. We'll be back this afternoon at 2 o'clock with your afternoon episode. For now, have yourselves a fantastic Monday.